I would sit in a budget meeting and be like, hey, you know what? Maybe I can discount this or reduce my fee or whatever. And that's a disservice to my entire company. And it really comes down to the point where you don't really necessarily need to apologize that something is expensive. It's like, do you want it or not?
It took me so long to learn that. And I'm so much more profitable today for a number of reasons. But the biggest one is being able to say no. Today on the Curious Builder podcast, we had Farrell on from Killowen Construction, and we had really a deep, heartfelt conversation. You're going to love this one. We're going in for the real thing, learn how to scale, learn how to treat your people, and learn how to challenge yourself. Without further ado, here's Tyler. Welcome to the Curious Builder podcast. I'm Mark Williams, the host. Today, I'm joined with Tyler Farrell from Killowen Construction out in Utah. What's up, buddy? How do you like that? How do you like that one? We almost went with YouTube. You're the owner of YouTube,
Yeah,
but you're from Utah. That's fine.
You got it right. You got it right.
Right.
Utah.
We got there. I didn't realize you were in Park City. I should have known that. Trapper Roderick and I have become pretty good friends. He's out in your neck of the woods. I end up talking to him quite a bit. Do you know Trapper?
Yes, we met at the airport a week ago.
Oh, really?
But on our way back from Florida, he was there. And
sure.
I guess we've used some similar subs and have never met until just now. But yeah, he seems like a cool guy.
I didn't realize, it's funny because what we're doing in Q1 is coming down the West Coast, and there's a number of people in Utah that I'm interviewing. And you and I have met just briefly. Actually, we met at the Minneapolis Contractor Coalition. I don't know if you remember this interaction. I've told this several times because I have a very loud voice. In fact, yesterday...
I was going to bring this up.
Were you really?
This was my icebreaker.
Well, you can bring it up then.
I know what you're going to say.
I want to hear your version.
Okay, let's pretend you didn't bring it up. I was going to be like, hey, Mark, do you remember when I shushed you?
I do. It's so good. It's such a good story.
I told one of my guys when I got back, because my team all knows who you are. One of my team members was like, yeah, the really handsome guy. I'm like, yeah. And
give that guy a raise.
I told him to be quiet like he was one of my kids. And I think it was really rude of me. But it was. So I'm like, I don't know if me and Mark have beef. But I shushed him.
That's so awesome. That is the best story ever. So it's so funny because I know that I have an extremely loud voice. I know because everyone tells me, including my wife, she wishes it was. And actually yesterday I was in the big atrium of this design center, and I'm having a virtual call after I was meeting with this architect, and this guy walks over to me, hands me a card while I'm on a virtual call on my laptop of this big atrium, and he just is like, give me the call, and he walks away, and I call him like an hour later, and it's just some random guy, and he's like, I was across the atrium and I heard your voice. And I'm like, that's the voice of the Curious Builder. I was like, oh, dang, that voice is bad. But anyway, going back to the shushing moment, I remember because I think it was Danielle Yegi from someone I knew. I was sitting in the back row.
You were talking to somebody and we were in the back.
We were in the back, and I was like, and you were on your computer taking notes. I remember because you had this big vat of blueberries, and in fact, you offered them to me as a peace offering when you left. Because you left, and you're like, hey, do you want them? I'm like, yeah, I'll eat the blueberries. Anyway, I remember getting shushed, and like when you're in it with a buddy, and you were just so into it. And I remember because you're a physical presence, and I'm like, and I remember like a little kid it's so funny that you also recognized that it was in. I thought it's so funny because I called Brad like months later because I knew you knew him. I'm like, is Tyler kind of a dick, or is he like kind of a funny guy? Like, I didn't get the best first impression. And I was like, that being said, like he had to shush me because I was loud. In his defense, I was being loud. So it's like, I can't really hold them. I was like, I got to get him on the podcast and chat with him. And he's like, that's so funny, dude.
Yeah. I remember thinking, dang it. Definitely could have handled that differently.
So funny. Well, that's a great icebreaker. I love that we both remember that moment. I didn't realize how many builders you're in Utah, but put in perspective, Trapper's always saying like literally how many builders are in that Utah Valley? It's wild. How many of you guys are builders?
So, and a lot of good builders too, less successful builders. I don't know if you know, Brad and I went to school together. Yeah. We went to construction management BYU, and it's a really good program. My story is a little bit different. I went to construction management and still didn't know if I wanted to do construction, and I kind of went to law and all this stuff. But there are so many. I don't know how well you know the geography of Utah, but I say Park City. That's obviously like world renowned. I live in Midway, which is like just down the road, and Heber Valley, like one of the original rednecks. But it's really close, 15, 20 minutes from Park City. And then there's Utah County, and there's a lot more population. and a lot of builders, but there's still a lot in my little community. I think in like a 1.5 mile radius, there's like 7 builders, and that's like, those are my neighbors, and then not to mention everyone else. But we are, I don't know, it's my backyard and it's what I'm used to. I mean, there's just always been a lot of builders. We don't go to Utah County a lot. We will occasionally, but our work is primarily Park City area and a little bit north of that now, because there's some really, really cool developments that are really high-end custom. We're so fortunate to work in this area because there's really more good work than there is good builders. But
that's a good problem to have.
It is. Then I get like the FOMO of like, am I in the right rooms? Because I think we're really good and I want to be the one getting the good job. You know what I mean? So, but kind of normal average homes, I have slowed down significantly, I think, because of costs and all the things we can talk about, inflation. Our clients are typically second, third homes, cash.
It's interesting. I mean, are you familiar with the term K-style economy?
No.
I mean, essentially like a giant K. So basically that top tier, right. I mean, we're building for the 1%. Sure. And that top 1%, like, you know, and you're obviously vacation market on top of uber wealthy and whatever not. And it's a wonderful, it's where our skills have drawn us, and it's where you are too. But most of my clients, even before kind of this K-style economy occurred, I don't know if it's true for you out there, but most of my clients pay cash. Is that true in your market as well?
Yeah, it is. I found, and again, I started this 12, 13 years ago, and we were doing anything. Absolutely. We'd say yes to everything. That right. Bathroom, yes. You need a window well? Heck yeah, I'll do whatever. But our clients, I think about maybe 3 or 4 years ago, we got more into that, just cash. And interest rates really did. I have a notification every morning showing me what interest rates were doing.
Wow.
I mean, that does affect the economy in general, but not necessarily our clients as much. But even as much as like 3 or 4 years ago, we were like 70% like bank loans. And it's definitely flipped to be like 90-10, maybe 80-20. So yeah, mostly cash clients.
How, speak of that flip, when in your career, so you've been in business for 13 years, when did that flip happen? Like, we've all sort of been there. I mean, most of us have, where you start small, you take everything, but like, what was the catalyst? Or if you were to look back now in your career, like, what was it that sort of led to that moment?
It was around, a lot of things happened at once. I think we upped our game networking with designers and architects. I was like one of your kind of stereotypical builders that hated designers when I first started. Like, they make my life harder. They're just sending me a Pinterest picture. I'm having to do all the work anyway, until I worked with a good one. And really, it coincides with first starting to work with Shay McGee. And that really helped. I'm not going to dismiss that at all. We were working with each other before the Netflix show. But
what year was that?
2018. Okay. When I first started working with her.
Okay.
The show was filmed around COVID though.
Okay.
And I was building her house around 2020, I think. But anyhow, that really helped. Shay's freaking rock star. Like, I was at IBS a couple of weeks ago, or you were there, and there was an autograph signing line and like a velvet rope, and I kind of peeked around, and she's like, "Oh, I tell you," they opened up the rope for me.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yes, you people wait in line.
Did you feel like you were in a movie like Entourage, like back in the day, like going to the?
So that definitely helped with like getting our name out. Absolutely. However, I had never ever wanted to scale. Reserve the right to change my mind. Obviously, we started getting more and more work. Primarily, we worked our guts out. Like, I will say, I remember Will Smith said something about like, who's not a role model of mine, by the way, just saying, I remember he would say something like, I'm not the most talented, but like, if you and me are on treadmill side by side, I will die before I get off that treadmill. Right. And that was like my mentality as I first started. I will outwork everyone. I am not the smartest. Absolutely not. I'm not like the best builder in my company. I don't think. Like, I do have a lot of great skills. But ultimately, I think growing the company the way we have and bringing in talent more than just me, it really, really elevated our builds. Absolutely. So
let me pause you for a second about that hire. and we'll get to your controller here maybe in a minute, because I think it's key, at least from what I've gathered. But like, how is it that, did you know you were looking for, like, I like what you said, there's people on your team that are better builders than you. Did you know it at the time, or were you just attracted to their talent, or was that like a strategic idea? Like, hey, if I want to grow, if I want to do these homes, my talent as a team needs to take a major level up. I mean, you see it all the time in sports teams, right? Like, we got to make a trade for a high-end talent. Like, walk me through your thought process, and did you even realize it at the time?
So no, I didn't. I didn't be like, oh, I need to get people in here that can do it better than me. I really was, it was just bandwidth and scope and just not being able to do it all myself, right? So my first hire actually is Levi, one of our project managers. He was my tile setter at the time, and everyone just loved him. He was great. I was like, hey, do you want to come do this with me? Anyhow, that was, the start. We're at, around 25 plus right now employees, but he was the very, very first one. And I had never worked for anyone like me before, so just doing the best I could. I think if there's value from my story, it's maybe not doing it the right way.
But I think that's actually very relatable, because one of the whole reasons why I have the Curious Builder and why we do these collectives now across the country too is, like, most of us get into our to be owners because we're entrepreneurs, and we're either unemployable by other people, or we have a great passion. But it's, most of us don't have a deep business background or have a deep That's why I was people that have like left corporate America or have exited businesses and then start a construction company, they are light years ahead in the form of running a business. It doesn't make them a great builder or not. But honestly, my dad told me this years ago, and I've said it 1,000 times. I'll say it 1,000 more. You can be a good at business and bad builder, and you can make it. You could be a good builder and bad at business, you won't make it. And hopefully, obviously, the goal is to be good at both. But, I think there's this entrepreneurship story of learning from your mistakes is ultimately key to we could go really deep here, but like survival. I mean, if you don't fail, how do you learn? And so now when people ask you to look back, you're like, well, yeah, there's probably 10 things that could jump out at you. Like, well, man, that was a huge level up. Ooh, I fell.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's interesting when you talk to people about why, like a builder, why did you get into construction? A lot of the time, like, oh, I like creating things with my hands. Okay. If you're successful, you're probably not going to do that often anymore. There's a lot of self-performing builders. I'm not saying you can't be successful and do that, but that is one thing that attracted me to construction is, I loved woodworking in high school, and then I just had some desk jobs, and I just leave at the end of the day. I'm like, what did I actually do? What can I show for that hard work? And I was really drawn to building. I had my tool belt on for a little while, but ultimately the people building our homes are so much better than I ever was. But I think with scaling, because I actually did a panel at IBS about this, and I think you have to understand or accept that if you scale, you will not have the same job, and you might love your job. I love running a job site. I was good at it. I'm not running a job site anymore. I'm helping my team run their job sites, and I am involved in every project. I don't just disappear, but ultimately I'm not the guy on site, but they're connected to me, and I'm good at that. I'm good at that mentorship to a degree. I'm not the best trainer for our young guys, and that's why I'm so thankful to have some other people on my team who are really good at that. I'm not quite as patient as some of them, but we just have a really good mix of talent that has helped us scale. Now, again, my job is not what I thought it would be, and I don't love all of it, but with my goals and what it's given me, I'm glad I did it. Because there's always the question, how big should you grow? And as far as is it because of your ego? Is it because of money? Is it because you want to create a legacy? You want to create something bigger than yourself and provide work to people in your community? That's a real thing. And that actually gives me a lot of satisfaction. And I'm in my hometown, all that. A little bit of it is ego. I love that people know about Killowen. I love it. I'm super, super proud of it. We've worked our butts off, and it's great. We have a good reputation, but we fight for it every day. And we if people don't like me because they just don't like me, or I shush them or whatever, if they don't like us because they hear we're dishonest or we build a bad product, those are fighting words. You don't have to like Tyler. I get it. But I think that scaling portion, I don't think we're done. I don't want to be the biggest and baddest as far as like gross. We all want to make our net better, right? We all want to bring home more. But we're at a point where we had a little bit of a lower year last year because of some starts not happening, stuff like that. We were in like the mid 30s, 30 million. But, this year will be probably a 40 to 50. And I kind of like that spot where we are. I'm not saying I would say no to opportunities if I have to hire one more or two more, but I do feel like we're always kind of in hiring mode because of the opportunities we have. And some of these homes, now it's not about quantity as much. Some of them need two project managers. Like they're that big and that complicated. So as far as like my 5-year plan, I've never been good at that question. I've never been good at it, but I'll be building. I've I was afraid to scale because of downsizing and all of that because I was around during the recession. But I finally said yes to it because I had a conversation with my wife. I was like, you know what? I know I'm going to do a good job. I know I'm going to have a good company. We're going to have work. And if I have to let someone go and they're into our industry, someone else would have had to let them go before me. Like I can't control.
That's actually, I like that line a lot. That's actually super helpful because so many of us, Brad Levitt talks about all the time. I mean, at one time he was 31. I think now down he might be down to 26. But when I first met him, he was 19. I mean, our economy is elastic. Our building per market is obviously moves up and down. You just mentioned starts. I mean, you get a couple big projects that slide 6 months or a year. You're like, holy smokes, from an overhead standpoint, like it's scary. And these are people you've not only care about and train their families and all those things, but it's like, but we also don't, I think all of us, I can speak for myself, like I've held on to people that I should have let go. And I've interviewed people on podcasts and it's like, you think that you're doing the right thing. And at the end of the day, you actually did both of you a disservice. And I think that's really hard. I think we all sort of have to learn that. Hopefully we won't have to learn it more than once or twice. I've learned it for sure hard one time, really hard.
It's so hard because you see how hard they work. It's a tough job. I love it. I'm built for it. I really am. I love it so much, but it's not for everybody. But you know what's helped me with that? Where I'm not saying I'm firing people like this, but like what's going to help me with that next decision if I just need to drag them along with me? You look at the rest of your team and what a disservice it is to them to keep a poor performer. That way I can wrap my head around it really quickly and be like, oh, I'm being unkind to the ones doing a good job by keeping this person. And that is the mindset I really have to have, and I'm not good at it. I want to make it work. I have held on way too long to some, that didn't work. Maybe it wasn't good for them too. And, like it's always worked out.
This episode is brought to you by Pella Windows and Doors. I've used Pella for 21 years as the exclusive window company on every one of my builds. When people ask me who I trust for windows and doors, it's Pella, every time. Their craftsmanship, their innovation, the top-tier service make them a no-brainer for any custom home builder or designer who demand the best. Whether you're designing something bold or building something with timeless elegance, Pella has you covered. They're also the only window company that has a lifetime warranty on all of their windows. I've gotten to know all of their people at Pella Corporate, as well as locally here at Pella Northland. I'm proud to call them our partners and our friends. Visit Pella.com to learn more and connect with your local reps today. For more information, you can also listen to episode 1, where I interview the Pella Northland founders, as well as episode 109, where we talk all about their latest innovation with the Steady Set window. You actually said it very well. Like, my ability to, we have a family motto. It's really from my dad, like two, if I'm honest. One, if you're going to be stupid, you have to be tough. And then the second one is, comfortable being uncomfortable in forms of exercise or running or suffering pain, like physical pain. But I think most entrepreneurs and owners of companies have a long ability. I'm not always saying it's a great thing. Like just because you're really good at suffering, so you would like to think that's probably a pro in many respects. And I think our stubbornness can be a superpower, but sometimes it can blind you to like, sometimes you just got to rock in your shoe and you got to stop, take the rock out, and like you'd be way better off than just running a bloody foot.
That's so funny you said that. I've got my journal out. Yeah. I wrote that this morning, like something along the lines of like, I need to come to terms with myself that I will never be at peace in my mind. I just never will. I will always have something. And, the peace actually isn't for me. It was never meant for me because I'm kind of a crazy person, the way my brain works. but like bringing peace to my family. I want them to have peace, and that oddly makes me more at peace. But like, you're right. The entrepreneur spirit, I'm unemployable. What you mentioned, we have a personality profile, that survey we fill out, and mine are extreme. They're extreme, and Lord bless my employees sometimes, because I understand why I'm kind of hard to communicate with sometimes, and why I've got my foot on the gas, but then it's on the pedal. I brake sometimes. But
did you guys do DISC or Insight, or what personality?
The one we use is called Culture Index. I got it from Tom with Lost Creek in Colorado. He brought it to our builder group, and I'm an absolute skeptic with that stuff. My profile says I'm skeptical, but anyhow, it got me right on, and some of our other people right on. And we are so lucky that like when we do post for a job, we get a lot of applicants. Our last posting, we got 200-300 applicants, and I don't have 200 hours to talk to people.
Right.
So it is a way to filter. It is not perfect, but our first hire, based on that, the person actually did not have a great interview. But the great thing about that survey is that you need someone who's good at their job, not someone who's good at interviewing. And I took my like top 3 to like kind of trainer with this system. He's like, for the love of God, do not hire those first 2. Like they will not do what you need them to do. They're really good at interviewing. Their sales and was in the sales position and stuff like that. I was like, oh yeah, I can kind of see that. That'd be like a fun hang. And then, we ended up finding the first person we hired based on their profile. Slam dunk, so good. So I'm sold on it.
It's funny. I've hacked it the other way. I'm too much of an optimist, and I like people too much that I realized that I won't hire anyone again in my career ever. And so I have my controller who's he's like Crankshaft in the comic strip. He's just like super black and white. I mean, he's awesome with numbers, right? He's like personality is an Excel spreadsheet, and I'm the opposite. I'm just like color wheel. And so like salespeople, like of course I like it because I'm in sales, and so like you tend to even for the position you tend to project, or you're attracted to what sort of your talents are. And so I found that for me, I let my team hire. Plus, if it ever happens, my new go-to line, if something doesn't work out, I'd be like, well, I didn't hire him. You guys did. Like, I haven't had to use that line yet. But
I've been less involved for sure. Yeah. I let it get through a few rounds, and then we talked. And I trust my people enough to be like, could you work with this person? So it is, hiring will never be an exact science. Like I said, just using this culture index, it's not perfect. I think it's not great at judging like people's like honesty and character, but like it can tell you how ambitious they are, where they are on the social scale, their level of detail that's important. They have patience, stuff like that. Anyway, this is not a sales pitch for that.
Yeah,
no, I like it. But
I have a question. You've said so many things that I took notes that I want to kind of go back to. One of them was you had mentioned about training, and this has been a thought process that I'm curious to ask this. Do you think that you're a better coach or a better cheerleader to your employees? You made a comment earlier about your trainer that you sometimes, I'm just curious how you would self-reflect yourself.
Gosh, that's a great question, because I have found an absolute love for coaching, actual coaching, coaching my sons.
Yeah.
I started coaching because, and I don't have time. I don't, but like I've made time, and I'm so happy I did, because
what sports?
Football and basketball.
Okay.
And I did it mainly because I wanted to see which kids were little turds, and I didn't want my kids to hang out with, which is a great reason to do it, because you can kind of see, you get to spend a few hours with them each week, and you're like, kid's kind of a little punk, And anyway, but I found quickly I love coaching. I was better, I think, coaching at football, but anyway, I'm working on the basketball stuff. But anyway, I really, really love that, and I do think I'm good at coaching / I don't know, cheerleading. I don't know. But like, as far as like when I was mentioning I'm not a great trainer, I'm fortunate where my job is cool, where I can kind of be the visionary now. And then I'm like, hey guys, can you go figure that out? I love talking to all my employees about like their future, construction, advice, general life advice, because I've made so many mistakes, stuff like that. My door's always open. I hate performance reviews, and I think it's unfair for me to do them because I'm not in the trenches with them every day. So like we've kind of modified that a little bit. Like I can't give your performance review unless it's just what I've heard. And that's not very fair to you or me. So talking about training, we have a lot of younger people that want to work for us. And I'm not going to get into this weird, like, this generation doesn't know how to work, stuff like that. I don't think I relate really well to a young person as far as coming straight out of college, and they really don't know anything about building. They really don't. I didn't. And the homes we build, there's like no time to practice. Like, you got to come in and be dialed. And there's certain things that urgency and their work ethic, yes, it can be improved, but I think that's something that comes with your personality a little bit. But as far as like trainings, I've had our team, we do trainings twice a month where we go and meet at a job site. We talk about insulation, stuff like that. We call it our mastercraft, and we kind of have a curriculum for that. And that's great because I don't have the patience for that. So my team is doing it.
That's amazing to hear. I mean, I think I've seen some of your social media where I've seen your whole team. I mean, I think I've seen it. We do this too, but I know Brad made it popular too with his, like, you know, and most big companies now at this point do it, but where everyone, when you do a punch list, it's like all 25 of your people, I'm sure, would go punch your house out. You know, the poor project manager is like, great. And you're like, hey, it's like you turn into like a stallion smoother. You're like, don't worry, the race is coming. You're doing a great job. We're just trying to help you. And like, but I love the idea that as a team, the reason I asked the question is for me to gain from it. I didn't realize I actually was a coach for 10 years for a cross country team, and I loved it, but I think I was better at cheerleading. I mean, I'm in my biggest weapon, if you will, is enthusiasm and energy. And so I feel like I can infuse that into my people and, like, you know, give them a jolt of spiritual Red Bull, for lack of a better description. But like, for me to sit down and like coach them on how to get better, my temperament is not really geared for that. And it's just something I've realized about myself. So it's been one of my new favorite questions to ask people and see how they sort of react to it, mainly just because I feel like I know where some of my shortcomings are, and so then I have to maybe find a different way to train. Because the origin of the question was, somebody said, if you're going to scale, you have to hire. And if you're going to hire, what is your plan? And I think early on in my career, I didn't have a plan. I'm like a squirrel looking for a nut in every tree I find. And so it was really just to the standpoint, I would hire someone, and I really tried to hire A players, which worked out well because they knew what they were doing. But the problem is that's not really that's not a system. That's just, and so it's like, that has always been my weakness, is systems. And I know that you can't scale without systems. I know Brad Robinson was on that panel with you, and he's a good friend of mine, and he's very good at building systems. And so I love to hear, yourself included, like, how is it that you've built this system? Did you employ EOS? Did you have people and implementers come in, or like, what was kind of your blueprint? Like, I know how to build a house. Like, we would never build a house without a blueprint. Why do we think we can build a business without a blueprint? And yet the majority of owners do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of trial and error, and I'm not going to say we have it down yet. We don't. Like, we're still working on that org chart and who needs to report to who and all that stuff, just like what I said with reviews. So we're constantly trying to improve our systems. But I found, as I hired a lot of great people who were incredibly loyal to the company and saw where it was going. For better or worse, they all acted kind of like mini entrepreneurs, as in they would wear whatever hat I needed them to wear, right? So that got us by for a while until we got to, like, I don't know, 7, 8 employees. Then you need some structure. Like, okay, we all can't be Tyler's number 2. So then I started assigning, like, okay, this person's in charge of estimating. This person's in charge of quality control. And so, like, it started that way in a very loose, like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I need someone to do this for me. Now it's to the point where, you know, and these structures existed, I just never implement them. Like, we have project coordinators, site superintendents, project managers, and an estimating team and a finance team. And I'm the head of all of those, but I have people report to me. So we're still working on that, but I still like that we're flexible, because my favorite type of employee is someone who can be a mini general contractor, but those are kind of like unicorns, where you have to be really good on site. You have to be good with numbers. You have to be good with the client. You have to be good with, you know, the admin side. I love that. You can kind of let them loose, and they can go build a house for you. And I tried to, like, get all my employees to be able to do that, but it's just not in their skill set. And you know what? That is okay. Because I have some guys where their career path is, they're going to be in the field. They're going to be supers. They're not going to touch admin, and that is fine. They're building some awesome stuff. So that's where a project coordinator comes into play. And the budget accounting, we have systems where we're with the finance team and the PMs, monitoring those budgets, monthly budget meetings, tracking those costs. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's a $500,000 house or a $20 million house. That money is really important to that person, and maybe even more so on the 500,000, right? Like, it's tight. So they all take such great stewardship of that money, and letting the clients know every month where every penny is going, where they project the budget ending every month, even though it's going to finish in a year and a half. We do our very best to project costs, because a lot of builders are not good at that. And it's difficult too. There's unknowns. You haven't done the purchase orders yet. You haven't ordered the tile, all that stuff. And through our experience, our collective experience, we rely on each other to see where these budgets are going, even though we don't have all the selections done. So that was one of the first things that me releasing. I used to do all the budget reviews with all the clients. That exhausted me mentally, especially emotionally, because we didn't grow up super wealthy or anything. I'm not cheap, but I'm so thankful for every penny I've earned, right? And when I'm building for someone, I just know how expensive this is. And I was putting us in a bad situation because I want to be the yes guy. I want to give good news. And that is hard for a builder. It just is. There's a lot of surprises. There's a lot of things that you can't control. There's good news too. I'm not saying it's all bad, but ultimately I would sit in a budget meeting and be like, hey, you know what? Maybe I can help. Maybe I can get you, maybe I can discount this or reduce my fee or whatever. And that's a disservice to my entire company, all of our people. And I got controller on board. Our project manager started handling those budget reviews because it's less emotional to them. And it really comes down to the point where you don't really necessarily need to apologize that something is expensive. It's like, do you want it or not?
That's what I like how you articulated that. It took me so long to learn that. And I'm so much more profitable today for a number of reasons. But the biggest one is being able to say no. Because you're right. Whether it's, I think they call it the savior complex, swooping in to save the day. As an owner, you don't want to like flip in and like work on one of your builders and be like, oh, I can solve this. Like you just cut out the legs of this guy in front of, or this woman in front of your, most people would not intentionally do that, but hopefully not. But you think about it in terms of, how are you conducting yourself to the client? And I look back at some of the more difficult clients I've had. I think I've had two that come really that stand out. And it always started, I think they sort of weaponized my own humanity against me, is how I've talked about it, is that I generally try to be a good person. And the homes are such an intimate, beautiful, wonderful thing when it goes right, and it's their family and it's their home. And like, we care deeply about the craft and the people. And so when they start, it's like, your problem, we all sort of say, well, it's your problem, it's my problem. And like, I had this one time, we've all hit bad soil before. I don't know if we don't really have the rocks that you probably have, but we hit bad soil, organic soil, you got to keep digging, whatever. And, it was like the first thing, and I'm like, you know what, I'll help you out. What I just signaled to the client is that every time you have a problem, I will solve it for you. Yeah. And, that lesson was so painful for me.
So you helped him like with the cost?
I helped him with the cost. I said, tell you what, it was because it's right out the gate. First it's the permit. So and we do cost plus. I think that was actually my last fixed bid. It was my last, and probably for that reason. But even so, sometimes cost plus, they sometimes think it's your issue too. But anyway, a lot of it is how we deliver the message and in stories. But anyway, it was the first thing, day one. And so, looking back, these are all red flags. But at the time, you're like, it's like, hey, I'm going to set this off right. And then the next thing happened, and the next thing happened. And I basically just trained them that this is how we do it. That when you have an issue, it's my help. And it seems like everyone can relate to that one way or another. And I've learned, it was a painful lesson, very painful, but I've learned it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. If schedule and budget was involved, it would be the perfect job. But unfortunately, those are two very important things, right? But yeah, that's a spot where, with the scaling, taking that off my plate, I'm still involved in the budgets and the numbers, and I'm there to help. But they're taking ownership of it, and that's actually helped me quite a bit. Then I can focus on some other things.
So let's speak about that. You mentioned goals. both you helping your people. One of the questions I had, I wanted to start with, like, what are your goals? You mentioned that I don't need to do the 5-year thing because you don't know what it is, but like, what would be like this year? Like, what would be a goal that you have for this year? Or what is one thing that if you're going to spend the majority of your time on would have the biggest force multiplier on your company? Let's start with that question first.
I have a specific kind of strategy into a market we're working on right now that I probably won't go into like details on it, but it is
Sure.
business development.
Yeah.
And it's exciting. It's getting us what we want to be doing, and some just excellent high end, just amazing projects. And it's happening, right? But I just need to be very involved, very hands on.
Yep.
But my goals, I'm a total goal guy, right? I have like, as opposed to New Year's resolutions, I have like new month resolutions. Like, I'm just always writing down all these things I want to accomplish. And one comes to mind is I want to be on site more. There's times over the past year I didn't even feel like a builder. It doesn't mean I wasn't helping our company and, working on the business, but I just want to be in the field more. And that's a goal I've had, and I have been able to do it so far this year. I've been able to be out on site more, but you only have so much time. So what would I give up?
So go into that a little deeper, because oddly enough, that was my goal last year and a little bit into this year. And I'm curious, was it for you to maintain kind of a pulse and like you sort of felt a calling to it, or was it also, it's probably, I'm guessing, all of these things, but for your people to also see you on site?
Because I like it. Mm-hmm. I really like it, and I think I'm good at it. I'm good at meeting them and going like, all right, how's this trim detail work? How's this base tie into the case? Like, let's go over some of that stuff. I really enjoy that. I love just checking out the details, talking to them, talking through an item, be like, hey, that might work for another builder, but that doesn't work for us. And definitely not there. They shouldn't be afraid when I walk on site. It's there to serve, to help. And I really enjoy that. And I think the team appreciates it. Like, I've got feedback. It came from some feedback. Be like, yeah, we wish we could get more of you.
I've had that before. I mean, I'm very close to my cabinet shop, Rich, and he often will say, because he knows, and it's sometimes for men, sometimes it's harder for them to say but when they say it, like, it's like the trident it's like, it's a spear. And he's just like, I remember a couple of years ago, he's like, it really would be nice to see you on the site more. And he didn't say anything more than that. It wasn't like he wanted to see me. I think it was just, I think he understood what I was trying to do. And as we get pulled into all these different avenues, and honestly, my time is even more valuable. This is weird. I don't know how to account for this. I have less time than I've ever had, but I'm somehow on site more than I've ever been. I don't know how that's working exactly. Time to talk about Contractor Coalition Summit. At the beginning of May, we are going to be in Denver, Colorado for our first Contractor Coalition meetup. We're going to do a standalone event in the middle of September in Minneapolis. It's a one-day crash course, a reduced fee. Tickets are available now if you want. That goal here is it's a significant investment to spend 3-4 days away from your business and your family, plus just the expense of attending the conference. We wanted to create an event that was just a one-day crash course. You can find all those details at contractorcoalitionsummit.com. We also in November have our 3-day tail end of the year, which is going to be in Charlotte, South Carolina. So if you're interested in any of those 4 events, please head to contractorcoalitionsummit.com. DM me for any information or email me, mark@mdwilliamshomes.com. And thanks for tuning in. I think you said something in the beginning that I liked, which is you like it. I think it's okay to follow like your passions or like what you like. Cause like, I think the personality test really reveals, like we had something for our company where it was a disc assessment, which is red, yellow, blue, and green. And like they represent, I won't go on into it right now, but like the point is as a team, you want to be equally distributed in all 4 quadrants. The typical owners are mentality or drivers and visionaries. That's red, yellow. But we had a person that at home, she was a totally different person than she was at work, which meant work was tiring her out emotionally. And and she, you know what? She didn't even make it a year. She was. And like for me, I'm the exact same person at home as I am at work. So work is very fulfilling. I've never disliked my job. It's been hard, but I've never been bored. Like I truly just love people and being and so it's not hard. But so I think it's important to follow what you love and what you enjoy and what gives you energy. Because if you don't, how is it sustainable?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I really have to modify to do stuff like this. I don't like public speaking. I don't like being in front of the camera. But getting back to kind of we're talking about cheerleading and motivating, I can turn it on.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a fake way. I can gather the energy to get enthusiasm because I really do like my job, but I'm just not a naturally like, I don't know. I used to be, I don't know what happened. Like I'm just so serious and concerned all the time now, but I was kind of a goofy kid. And my mom says all the time, and she thinks this is a compliment. She's like, "Oh yeah, we didn't think you were going to be a hard worker. We're very surprised at your success." Like, oh.
That is the best.
I do see me as like having definitely two phases in my life, and I don't know when I became this really just producing machine because I get a lot done. I think a lot of it is when I met my wife, really, and that was in my 30s, and something just changed, and I think I felt like all I ever wanted to do was get married and have kids, and I just could never really find that right person, and it consumed me. It really did. My career, my ambition, it was like I gotta find that girl, and it's so weird that I did, like when I was 30, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm behind. Like I gotta get serious, and I do think that is what happened then, even more so when I started having children and just like I got these 5 babies, that hey, I got to take care of these people. And it's interesting how I've changed. I am a believer in change, right? Because I'm definitely different, a lot different than I was. But how I got into that, how I got to that rant there is I'm talking about like how we do modify and how I can turn on sales and I can, but it's exhausting. So you want to put people in the right spots. And so me being out on site more, doing what I'm great at and helping, that's when I can naturally be a little more optimistic and have a little more fun.
I think something that comes, this is my impression, and again, because we only had the one shush incidents, but one thing that I would say that I really appreciate about you, I find that you're a very authentic person. I think the way that you show up on social media, like you have a reputation, and I've mentioned this to other brands because I was approached by a brand. I haven't actually told you this, so spoiler alert. And they were like, "We would love to work with Tyler." I'm like, "Great." I said, "This is all I can tell you. I think he's a very serious operator." And I don't think he's going to go. He's not going to probably, I don't know this, you correct me if I'm wrong, but my impression was, I don't think this is someone who chases money. I don't think this is someone who's going to go for a dangled carrot. I think this is someone who's going to align with a partnership they either already have or they believe in, or that they authentically aligns with their personal values, which is great because I think XYZ product may or may not do that. That's not the point. The point is like, I think authentic people are drawn to authentic people. And from the interactions that I've had with you and watched you from afar, and now even having this interview, I know that you don't love to be on stage. You do it because you obviously in the industry we're in, there is some front facing that has to be done, and you can dial it up. And some people may or may not have an easier time of doing it, but you are very authentic, and I doubt I'm the first person to tell you that.
Well, yeah, I really, really try to be, especially when I know how difficult this industry is. Again, I'm not trying to talk people out of construction. We need talented people. Please come. However, I don't love, and this is not exclusive to our industry, it's a social media thing. It's all this when everything looks perfect. I spoke a couple times at IBS, and I mentioned, I think in every panel, like, hey, learn from our mistakes, because I'm not going to give you that it's all been great and this is your like fix all answer.
So that is the perfect lead into this question. So I let every guest before leave a question for the guest after. So you'll get one at the end. Okay. This question is perfect. If they want to know, so this question is from the Backcountry Hut Company. They're up out of Vancouver. Their question to you is, what is on the Mount Rushmore of your failures? Which I thought was so funny. Some Canadians referencing Mount
Yeah.
Rushmore.
Yeah, it's true.
I'm like, well, I don't know what Mount Rushmore is in Canada, but thank you for your knowledge. What would stand out if you were to say, like, this is one of my biggest failures? And
Hmm.
what did you learn from it?
Oh, it was absolutely a job where we lost a bunch of money. It's why we've implemented so many budget policies. I've mentioned it a few times. It was a job that I wasn't brave enough to always have hard conversations with this gentleman. He scared me. He was mean to me. Like, I'm a big guy.
Yeah,
Like,
you were getting bullied.
physically, I'm afraid, but like, he was mean. He scared me. And I hated having those conversations with him. But like, it's a gorgeous, beautiful home. So proud of it. But like, we would get, additions added throughout. The design wasn't complete, and we started going over budget. And we did. We got every single addition approved. But what I didn't do a good job was pinning him down every month, just making him sit down and go through it all with me so he could understand the total. I didn't do a good job of that. And so we got in the end and we're several $100,000 over budget. And he was really upset. And I was like, well, remember, it's this and this and this and this. And I ended up eating a lot of it. And I don't know, it was a really, really hard situation. And we have never missed a budget meeting since. So I mean, it was a huge failure. Like, I couldn't bonus like I wanted to that year. I couldn't, like, it really, really hurt us. And I learned a lot from it. That's what stands out. I'm sure I got a lot more, but
No, that's super helpful. One of the things that as we kind of wind down here, one of the things that I had mentioned, or just thinking about it, and I think I left you a voice memo this morning about it, that really stood out when I was kind of prepping for this was, you mentioned about scaling. When you first started, it was onesie twosie, won a couple of homes. I mean, the builder you are today and what you do, I'm guessing there's no way you would have envisioned that was what you were going to do in
oh, no
2013.
way.
Like, none of us do. You kind of go where your clients take you. How do you wrestle with, should I scale? Not if you can scale. Like, you're talented. And you touched on it a little bit, but dive in a little bit deeper. Like, how do you know if you should, and how do you balance with, like, life? I mean, I have 3 kids, you have 5, and it's important that you show up as a coach, you show up as a father, as a husband, as a friend to your, I don't know, the rest of your family, extended family, but like, how have you found balance, and how have you found this equilibrium of your company, but yet who you're supposed to be as a human? And this is obviously, I'm
Yeah.
reflecting on my personality and trying to have you help me with it. But like, how would you answer that question for you?
And how you define balance is, I don't know, it's probably different for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have and don't think I ever will have balance. But again, what's that baseline of balance? Do I spend the same amount of time with my kids as I do at work? No, I don't. However, when they get me, heck yeah, they get dad, like, hardcore. Like, I give them all my time. Like I said, give it up. Anytime I would be sitting in front of the TV, I'm coaching or something like that. So I want to be careful with balance because I don't always think you can equate it with hours.
Agreed.
But like, as far as like, I don't carry any guilt with how much time I give my family. And also, everything I do is for them. It really is. Like, building this company is getting back to your question about scale. You really need to be honest with yourself about why. Is it money? It's not a bad reason. It's not. Like, I might be able to retire sooner because I scaled. Is it your ego? Is it your pride? Do you want to see your sign up there and everyone to know you do a great job? I don't think that's absolutely terrible either. Is it, again, I mentioned, you want to build something, build a legacy. You want to build it for maybe, oh, I hope my company's around long enough for my kids to come and ruin it. I just like hope it's like, I do want to have something that withstands the ups and downs of this market, right? I would love it to be around in 20 years. Um, but like, as far as like, you have to really decide if you're going to scale, if you will like who you become and what you have to do. And are you willing to give up control, give up some power? Because a lot of us entrepreneurs are successful because we freaking do everything and we grind and we just get it done, right? And you hear it all the time. You got to delegate. You got to delegate. It is a lot harder than you think to do with some of our personalities, like to hand over your finances, to hand over. I don't encourage handing anything over completely. you got to have, it's your company. You got to have your touch points on everything in the company, but you have to really decide like what you want to be. If you want to be framing some of your houses, doing the finished carpentry, I just don't see how you could do what I do if you had your bags on half the time. I mean, again, at the scale we do, maybe you could with 1 or 2 houses, stuff like that. So that's kind of a long way to say it.
Well, let me ask you this then, because I agree with everything you said. You offered up really, I like how each one was a different thing, and that could be your thing because you're challenging the audience to think about their why. What is yours? What is the thing that motivates you? Peel back the goals, peel back the thing, but like, what is the thing that either fulfills you the most, or what is? And I know it's kind of a cool thing to say. Like, I know why.
I really do think I'm trying to build something incredibly valuable for my family. Whether Killowen is the most valuable asset I have, right? First and foremost, it is for my family, and I could say I don't care about money because I don't care for fancy things. No offense to people that do, but like, I do care about security, and just if something really bad happened, I could take care of more than just my family or whatever. Like, I'm a bit of a hoarder that way, right?
Right. Yeah.
So like, my why is to build something that is incredibly valuable for my posterity, and the people who have helped me build it, I want it to be valuable enough to share with them and them take care of their families. That's one. And then a lower tier, I've got this prove them wrong mentality. I've never felt like I've been enough. And that's something, it's so weird in my family. Like, I have a wonderful family, beautiful sisters. Like, we have such whack self-esteem issues. And I have had some success, right? And I have got the best life. My family, my kids, my company, holy cow. But I've never felt like enough. But like, I'm getting better with that. But it is a driving factor to prove people wrong.
Yeah, somewhere we picked up that you have a private chip list.
Yeah, where did you find that?
I have no idea. I was
very impressed with your research. I was like, what AI monster do you have?
Her name is Alyssa, and she is she writes all my blogs, and I used to do all my own note taking, and I found I love being in the moment, and sometimes and just like reading the body language and just having a good conversation, because I feel like, well, I want to enjoy it. I don't. My litmus test is if I enjoy it, I'm pretty sure the people listening, and if they don't, then they're not listening to us. Sure. But anyway, I'm sometimes amazed at what Alyssa finds. I'm like, this is good. So like this one, it even air quotes like the chip list. So tell us about the chip list, because I think it dovetails right into what you just said.
So I use Google Tasks for like my to-do list that syncs with your Gmail and everything. I have the app, and my chip list pops up every morning. I don't read it every morning. I don't read it every morning, but it pops up. It's about 30 deep, and people do get removed from time to time. This is not healthy. I'm not saying it is, but you found it, so
yeah. No, I think this is great. So it's people
I wish harm on,
yeah,
or wish bad things happen to them at all. They're not even people I dislike necessarily, but I remember how they made me feel.
Yeah,
and I want to prove them wrong. And they're on that list, and I will never tell people who is on that.
How do you know when to cross it off? Like when you feel like you found peace
when I don't feel that way anymore. Like really, I'll kind of look at. And again, it's not healthy, and I don't look at it every morning. But when I need some motivation, sometimes I'll look at it.
I mean, honestly, you know what my first reaction is Michael. Have you seen The Last Dance with Michael Jordan? Mm-hmm. The documentary. Yeah, remember? What's that?
Then you say, and I took that personally.
Yeah, totally. That's not the part I remember. The part was, remember, now you have a list of actual people, but they interviewed a player where he like hung up like 53 points on the guy over something he allegedly said, and he's like, I didn't say anything. That Michael Jordan was so competitive, and what he needed for a fuel source is where I'm trying to get to. This is your fuel source, is that, you know, Michael Jordan made up a made-believe thing just because he knew he needed that to get the best out of himself. And like, I like that, you know, whether this chip list is good for someone else or not, it's sort of irrelevant. It's good for you. And as long as you can balance sort of, a fire is a wonderful thing, but if your house starts on fire, that's a pretty bad thing. And so it's like, I think everything is a tool, and I like it. Everyone, I think has different things that motivate them. And I think, thank you, A, for sharing that.
Like motivation is, I don't know, you'll see on Instagram, there's discipline, there's motivation, like motivation fades. And my favorite quote about that is like, well, taking a bath doesn't last, but you do it every day anyway. There's things that I do every day to motivate me when I don't feel like it. And occasionally that's it. Looking at like, you know what, remember that person that denied me and all that stuff. So,
I mean, and sometimes some healthy competition, I think, and sometimes I think you can have, there's obviously, I mean, you play basketball, I play. And so it's like, there's sometimes guys on the court and like, you didn't know, you were like, you're playing at a 7, but all of a sudden you got an elbow to the ribs and you're like, oh, okay. Oh, is that how it's going to be? And like, and sometimes that just happens. It's like, you weren't looking for it, but it happened. And it's like, okay, this is what we're doing.
And it's interesting. We're all have our own things. I really do believe most people would get along if they knew the other person really well.
100%.
And if they understood where they were coming from, right? Like I wouldn't be mad at you for me being on your list because I shushed you, right? There's probably stuff on the list that like they don't even know they did it, right?
100%.
But again, it's how they made me feel. And I remember it.
I think that's good. So, I've mentioned a lot, so I couldn't not mention it now because you've teed it up so many times. Is like, you probably know the full quote, Maya Angelou's quote about how you feel.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my wife says it so many times that I think at this point Maya Angelou is going to ask my wife for money because my wife, and I think it's really true. I've actually tried to create a home. I mean, what we're doing right now, we have the spec home that we're doing right now called Misahus, and the whole home is based on wellness. And I didn't realize I was doing it at the time. Have you met Jude Charles from?
Yeah, I met Jude.
Yeah. So Jude came.
He did Brad's documentary, right?
He did. Yeah, he came up here a couple weeks ago, and he's such a gifted interviewer. My goodness, he makes me seem like a toddler, and his voice is so beautiful. I was like, dude, your voice is like warm butter on warm bread. Like your voice is amazing, man. And so, but he had this beautiful way of extracting out of me like my own story. And anyway, I think most builders do this without knowing. Like, don't you love it when someone comes through your house, especially if they're not in the trades or not a designer, they're just a rando, and they said, Tyler, I can't tell you why I like your home, but there's something about it that makes me feel different. And for years, I didn't know what to do with that compliment. And now it's like one of my favorite because you don't need to know all the things. And like, I think there's obviously a deeper appreciation from your peer. Like if Brad or I or Joe or whoever comes into your home, like we have the depth of knowledge because we've been in the trenches, we get it. Like, and so maybe a compliment might mean a deeper volume, but it doesn't take away from Bob Anderson, who walks through your home because he was on a ski trip and walks in on ski boots and kicks his ski boots off and is like, this house touched me. I love when people do that because of how it made your home, the care and love you put into that home somehow was able to make its way out and grab a hold of their soul and do something to it. That's special. I don't think that should be undermined.
Yeah, I agree. That's one of the best compliments I've ever had is when our builder group came through, and it was a house like I was super proud of. I am super proud of it. And one of the people came down the stairs and they just had to like, this home has a soul. And I'm like, and it's brand new. That's cool.
That's super cool. Well, I want to respect your time and the audiences as well. It is your turn to ask a question for the next guest. Actually, it was going to be Nathan Marsala, actually, who's in Utah as well. But I don't know if you know Nathan from the Bison Group. He's been a Contractor Coalition alumni. I don't think you guys have maybe met unless you met in Utah. But
I know
anyway,
the name.
I don't know. I had to reschedule him, so I don't know if he's going to be the next one or not. So it doesn't matter. Whoever the next guest is going to get your question.
Now there's a lot of pressure. I want to say like, do you love your job? Because the answer can be no.
Yeah.
means to the end type thing. I don't always love my job, but I love what it provides me. Right. Yeah. But man, that question about what's the worst thing you've ever done.
So, I mean, you got to go. I'll send you the episode. Do you know Stacey Ekman from Washington with Alaire Kirkland? I'll send you his episode because he's got such a straight delivery. He told me his worst one. Like, it is like,
whoa.
He started here's the short version. He saw his excavating bills and he's like, all they're doing is digging a hole. Like, and the margins must be like 80 or 90% margin. So he went and bought an excavator, started an excavating company, and lost his everything. Tried, and so he hit power lines. So his first job was a 5-unit like apartment building, whatever. He hit power lines. He got sued. He goes, and the client fired me. I'm like, shocker. And anyway, but the way he delivers it is amazing. I'm like, wow, your Mount Rushmore of Suckville was like way better than mine. Like that is Oscar worthy right there. But anyway, I'll send it to you because it's pretty good.
I don't know. Let's keep it along the lines of like ask them if they have a chip list, and if there's anyone on there that's motivated them to do better or to prove them wrong. And they're probably going to be a lot more well-adjusted than I am. Like, that's crazy. Why would you ask that? But
I mean, honestly, the opposite would also be interesting. I think there's there's the yin to the yang to the chip list. The other one is, what do you aspire to be? What drives you?
Yeah, doing it too because like getting back to just being authentic and real. I really appreciate that because I just don't ever want to be thought as like a phony. Although like I feel social media, I feel like an imposter because it all looks amazing, all that stuff, right? But I think builders like you and me, Brad, Nick, Joe, just all these great builders that have some social media presence, for better or worse, people listen to us. And I get a lot of young people, young men and young women DMing me being like, how can I become you? Like, how can I do this? And that is one reason I am pretty careful with my partnership deals, my sponsorship. Nothing against anyone who is go get that bag, go get paid, all that stuff. But like I want to be very careful and transparent about what our industry is like, the good and the bad. But man, it can be so great for the right people. It really can. I do want at least our page or anything we put out in the media to show some of our mistakes, not so much that like we look incompetent or anything, but to also show like, hey, there's a path through if you've screwed this up, if this detail wasn't the best, but look how we're fixing it, all that stuff.
I think showing the humanity. I mean, Nick Schiffer had one the other day at White Oak, and I went out there in November. I mean, it's a couple months before it was done, but he talked about this grill. I think us talking about it not always being perfect is super helpful to the community. It also obviously proves your point. Like, we're authentic, like we're humans, we make mistakes. I mean, I used to use this line all the time, like, Ford F-150, no knock on the sponsorship, but like they roll out, I didn't even think about this analogy, but I use this all the time in construction. They roll out 150,000 trucks a year on an assembly line in a controlled environment. And they still have callbacks, like that's expected. We're building a one-of-a-kind house outside in the elements, in the rain, over 2 years with thousands of people on it. It's amazing we get as much right as we do. Yeah. And I think this idea, like one of my number one red flags with the clients, if they ever use the word perfection. In fact, in the last 5 years, if I ever hear someone say perfection, I stop and I use that exact analogy.
That's so funny you say that, because there's a well-respected builder here that I definitely will not say the name, but we interviewed with someone, and that builder had built their previous house. And I said, hey, why aren't you calling them back? What's going on? Well, they were expensive. And when I asked them why they're so expensive, they told me it's because they were going to have a perfect house. And I said, well, that was stupid.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, because if you tell them it's going to be perfect, they're not going to, when their doorknob gets loose, which it will, I paid for a perfect house. But you're absolutely right. Perfection doesn't exist, but you can respond perfectly, right? You can respond to anything that you might have screwed up, any warranty stuff, you can show up perfectly, right?
And I think your earlier thing about how you feel, I think I would even challenge you saying that you can't, most of the times, I mean, I know with my wife, I don't always respond perfectly. In fact, a lot of times I don't. And so I think it means more the intention. Your earlier comment about like, if we truly like any marital dispute I've ever had with my wife, it's like at the end of the day, if we just can turn the dial of emotion down a little bit and talk to each other, like we have a shared common goal. We have a shared, like we care and love about each other. And I use that because I'm a very emotional person that way. And so it's like, I use that all the time with my clients. I'm like, let's dial this down a little bit. Like, do you think that I don't care about you? And they cannot answer that question with any other answer than yes, because it's genuine. I do care about them. And then as long as you can get to that baseline of like mutual care, honestly, what can't you solve? It doesn't mean it's going to be great, but you can get there.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that you hear that. It's validating. I had a conversation like that today with one of my employees, a designer we work with who we love. One of her people and one of our people aren't getting along. And I'm like, let's dial it back. we all want the same things.
Yeah.
We want the house to be awesome. We want the client to be happy. We want our bosses to think we did a good job.
Right.
So like, let's back off and come to that common goal. Our personalities aren't matching really well, but we don't have to make it personal. Let's just try and accomplish that goal. But like,
yeah.
I never thought there'd be so much psychology in my job.
I interviewed an interior designer, and I said, the reason I loved interior designers, or as I came into my career, and be like, okay, I can see now why. And I'd help. My mom was an interior designer, and so that having that as a role model was super helpful. But anyway, the point was, I said, what did you go to school for? She says, I went to school for psychology. I'm like, wow, have you gotten your money's worth out of that degree? Because anyone who's gone to school, like, I mean, I can only speak for myself. I went to school for business and communication. I don't know anything that I learned during that time. I think it was just being a dumb boy. Like, I just needed time to like age a little bit.
Sure.
And so anyway, the psychology aspect, honestly, this would be a great line of thinking. If you could ask a builder, like, what are some prerequisites? If you could design the perfect builder, like what professions or like attributes of their skill set would they need? I guarantee everyone would say like psychology or marriage therapy or counseling or that whatever that emotion or whatever we attribute to that group of people. We learn it one way or another.
Absolutely. And I think I've mentioned my children. I'm not going to force them to be in construction in general. I want them to do what they want to do. However, they will work in construction at some point in their life, because I want them to learn the empathy it teaches you. You are going to see everyone's point of view. You're going to understand why that homeowner's who's paying millions of dollars, you're going to understand why they're upset. You're going to understand why that painter is mad at the carpenter for leaving a pile of lumber in front of him in his way, so he didn't get home for another extra 90 minutes to see his kids. It doesn't mean that everyone is justified, but I swear I can go into any meeting and understand why they might feel that way. And I think construction is excellent for teaching you that.
That is well said. That is very well said. My Vince Longo out of Atlanta, he came on and he said that one of his goals, because his wife is a real estate agent, he's a builder, and his daughter, I think, is a junior or senior, and he said, I would like my daughter to take a year gap before she goes to college, if that's the path that she chooses. And in that year, my wife and I will help her set up an LLC. We will buy a house together. We'll design it, remodel it. She will run the remodel and all of it to work with all these people. It's a very similar situation. And then at the end of it, she'll sell it. The difference between, we'll invest all the money, but she'll make whatever profit she makes and manages, she'll keep. And she can apply it to a business of her choosing or to her school. It's her money. But at the end of the day, even if no matter what, she will at some point in her life own a home. She'll have to call for service. And I was like, dude, I have a 9-year-old daughter. I'm like, dude, can I come and let me know how it goes with your daughter? Because I totally got to try this now. Because what you just said and what he said, I'm like, that's gold.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well,
great.
Thank you for your time, buddy. I appreciate your time and the audience's time. And we'll have everything in your show notes. If you don't know who Tyler is, you will shortly. Thanks for tuning in to the Curious Builder Podcast Mondays and Thursdays, and we'll see you soon. Thanks for tuning in to the Curious Builder Podcast. If you like this episode, do us a favor. Share it with 3 other business owners. The best way that we can spread what we're doing is by word of mouth, and with your help, we can continue to help other curious builders expand their business. Please share it with your friends, like and review online, and thanks again for tuning in.